Captain Jack Reed stood with his hands behind his back, watching his crew with tired eyes. The briefing room of the UES Dauntless was filled with 20 officers waiting for him to speak. The metal walls around them hummed with the ship's engines. The stars outside the viewing window moved slowly as they patrolled the outer colonies. "I've heard the rumors," Reed said, his voice firm. "And I want them to stop." He tapped a button on the table, and a blurry image appeared on the main screen. It showed something dark against the blackness of space, with only a few points of light giving it shape. "This is not a ghost ship. It is not a myth. It is most likely sensor errors or asteroid shadows." Reed looked at each face in the room. "The Spectre does not exist." Lieutenant Lisa Morgan cleared her throat. She was the ship's intelligence officer, and she rarely spoke unless she had something important to say. "Captain, with respect, I have new data." She stood up and moved to the front. Her short brown hair was perfectly neat, just like her uniform. 3 colonies have reported similar sightings in the past month, and each sighting came right before an attack by unknown ships. Reed frowned. "Show me." Morgan took control of the display and brought up 3 videos side by side. Each showed the same thing: a dark shape moving against the stars, almost impossible to see clearly. In each video, the shape appeared for less than 5 seconds before vanishing. "This could be anything," Reed said, but his voice had less certainty now. "The timing is what matters, sir," Morgan continued. "In each case, within 1 hour of this sighting, the colonies were attacked by ships with no markings, and in each case, the attacking ships suddenly broke off and retreated." The room was quiet. Finally, Engineer Mike Baker spoke up. He was the oldest crew member, with gray in his beard, and 30 years in space. "My father used to tell stories about the Spectre," Baker said. His deep voice filled the room. "Said it was a ship unlike any other. Bigger than a colony ship but faster than a fighter. Said it could appear anywhere, without warning. No one knew who built it or who flew it." "Those are spacer tales," Reed said, "like sea monsters from the old ocean days." "Maybe," Baker agreed. "But the stories go back 100 years. And they all say the same thing. The Spectre only appears when humans are in danger." Reed was about to respond when his communication device buzzed. He looked down at it and frowned. "Briefing over. We have new orders." He looked up at his crew. "Prepare for jump to the Arcturus system. They've sent a distress call." 6 hours later, the Dauntless came out of jump space near the Arcturus mining colony. The massive station hung in orbit around a rocky planet rich with rare minerals. Everything looked normal. "I don't see any damage," Reed said, standing on the bridge and looking at the main viewer. "Get them on comms." A moment later, the face of Colony Director Paul Wilson appeared on screen. His eyes were wide with fear. "Captain Reed," Wilson said, "thank God you're here. What happened? Your colony looks intact." Wilson ran a hand through his messy hair. "We were attacked 6 hours ago. 7 ships, like nothing we've seen before. Fast, armed. They hit our outer defenses before we even knew they were here." "Where are they now?" Reed asked, signaling his weapons officer to be ready. "Gone," Wilson said. "They just left in the middle of the attack." Reed and Morgan exchanged a look. "What made them leave?" Morgan asked. Wilson looked over his shoulder, then leaned closer to the camera. "Something else showed up. Something big. Our sensors barely picked it up, but it was there. And then the attackers ran like they'd seen a ghost." Reed felt a chill up his spine. "We're coming aboard. Have your security footage ready." The colony was undamaged on the inside, but the people were scared. Reed could see it in their faces as he and Morgan walked through the hallways toward the control center. People moved quickly, talked in whispers, and kept looking out the windows at the darkness of space. In the control center, Wilson brought up the security footage on a large screen. "Here's when they first appeared," he said. The footage showed empty space, then 7 ships appearing suddenly. They were sleek and gray, with no markings or lights. They moved in perfect formation toward the colony. They took out our outer sensors and communication array first, Wilson continued. We couldn't call for help. The footage showed the ships firing precise shots at the colony's defenses. They clearly knew exactly what to target. They were about to hit our main power core when Wilson fast-forwarded the footage. There, watch the upper right corner. Reed and Morgan leaned forward. At first, they saw nothing. Then, like a shadow moving across the stars, something appeared. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the attacking ships, but somehow hard to see clearly, as if the light bent around it. The attacking ships immediately changed course. They broke formation and scattered in different directions, all of them moving away from the colony and the dark shape. What is that? Reed asked, his voice quiet. We don't know, Wilson said, but whatever it is, it scared them away. Morgan pointed to another screen. Can you enhance this section? Wilson zoomed in on the dark shape. For just a moment, as it turned, they could see its outline more clearly. It was sleek and black, with flowing lines that made it look almost alive. It didn't match any known ship design, human or alien. Sir, Morgan said, turning to Reed. It matches all the descriptions of the Spectre. Reed stared at the image, his mind racing. After 20 years in the United Earth Defense Force, he had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. Send all this data to our ship, Reed ordered Wilson, and keep your defenses on high alert. Whatever those unmarked ships were, they might come back. As they walked back to their shuttle, Morgan spoke quietly. Captain, what do you think about the Spectre? Reed looked out at the stars through a colony window. I think, he said slowly, that we need to report this to Admiral Wells. And I think we need to find out what those attacking ships were after. He didn't say what he was really thinking, that after years of dismissing old spacer tales, he might have just seen proof that the Spectre was real. And if it was real, what else in those tales might be true? As their shuttle undocked from the colony and headed back to the Dauntless, Reed found himself watching the darkness between the stars, looking for a shadow that shouldn't be there. Admiral Thomas Wells was not a man who liked mysteries. He liked facts, plans, and clear enemies he could fight. The large meeting room at Earth Defense Headquarters was filled with holograms showing attacked colonies. Wells walked around the table, looking at each one. 7 attacks in the past 3 months, he said to the officers gathered around the table. All on our outer colonies, all by ships with no markings, and no one can tell me who they are or what they want. Captain Jack Reed sat quietly, watching the Admiral. It had been 2 weeks since what happened at Arcturus Colony. His report about the Spectre had been met with doubt and questions. That's why I'm forming this task force, Wells continued, to find these shadow ships and stop them. Captain Reed, your Dauntless will join 4 other ships on this mission. Reed nodded. Yes, sir. And, Wells added, looking straight at Reed, I'm assigning Dr. Alan Foster to your ship. A thin man with glasses stood up at the far end of the table. He had messy blonde hair and wore a civilian science uniform. Dr. Foster is our expert on unusual space phenomena, Wells said, his voice making it clear what he thought about such things. After the meeting, Reed introduced himself to Foster as they walked to the shuttle bay. So you're the one who saw the Spectre, Foster said, his eyes bright with excitement. Reed frowned. I saw something. I'm not sure what it was. I've been collecting stories and data about the Spectre for years, Foster said. Most people think I'm crazy. He gave Reed a quick smile. Maybe I am. But the reports go back over 100 years, and they're all similar. What do you think it is? Reed asked as they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the Dauntless. Foster looked out the window at the stars. I don't think it's human, he said quietly. The technology is too advanced. But here's the strange thing, Captain. In every report, the Spectre seems to be protecting humans. Why would an alien ship protect humans? Foster shrugged. That's what I want to find out. Back on the Dauntless, Reed called a meeting with his senior officers and Dr. Foster. Intelligence Officer Morgan had been working with data from all the attacked colonies. "I found a pattern," she said, showing a star map with red marks on several systems. "The attacks are moving inward, from the outer colonies toward Earth. And they're not random. They're hitting places with new technology or research." "They're gathering intelligence," Reed said. "Exactly," Morgan nodded. "And I think I know where they'll hit next." She pointed to a small outpost near the Vega system. The Vega outpost just received a shipment of new sensor technology. It's small, not well defended, and in the right path. Reed looked at Admiral Wells on the video screen. "Sir, I recommend we set a trap at Vega." Wells nodded. "Agreed. Take your ship and the UES Valiant. The other task force ships will be positioned nearby. If these shadow ships show up, we'll be ready." 3 days later, the Dauntless and the Valiant waited in the dark side of a moon near Vega outpost. They had turned off all non-essential systems to avoid detection. On the bridge, the crew waited in tense silence. "What if they don't come?" asked Navigator Tom Walker. "They'll come," Morgan said confidently. "This outpost has exactly what they've been after." Communications Officer Marcus Diaz suddenly sat up straight at his station. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." Reed moved to his side. "What is it?" "A signal pattern I've never seen before," Diaz said, adjusting controls on his panel. "It's not using any known human frequencies or methods, and it's not coming from the outpost." Dr. Foster joined them, looking at the display. "Can you trace it?" Diaz worked for a moment, then pointed to a section of space on his screen. "Out there, moving toward the outpost." Reed didn't hesitate. "Battle stations. Quiet alert. Tell the Valiant." The crew moved quickly but silently to their positions. The ship's lights dimmed to red. Reed could feel his heart beating faster. "Multiple ships detected," reported Sensor Officer James Wright. 7 ships, same configuration as the ones that attacked Arcturus. On the main screen, they could see them now. The shadow ships moved silently toward the outpost, their gray hulls hard to see against the blackness of space. Reed opened a channel to the Valiant. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Both Earth ships fired up their engines and weapons at once, moving out from behind the moon. The shadow ships immediately changed course, turning to face the new threat. "They're fast," Reed muttered as he watched them move. The shadow ships spread out in a fighting formation. "Sir, they're charging weapons," Wright called out. "Shields up. Fire when ready." The space between the ships lit up with energy beams and missiles. The shadow ships were incredibly fast, moving in ways that seemed impossible. 2 of them focused on the Valiant while the others engaged the Dauntless. "Their technology is beyond ours," Foster said, watching the battle with wide eyes. "Look at how they move." A direct hit rocked the Dauntless. Reed grabbed his chair to stay standing. "Shields at 60%, called Engineer Baker. "Keep firing," Reed ordered. "We need to hold them until—" Diaz interrupted, his voice high with excitement. "Captain, massive energy surge detected." Reed felt a chill up his spine. "Where?" "Just appeared, sir, behind the shadow ships." Everyone on the bridge looked at the main screen. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then, like a ripple in space itself, something began to appear. It was huge, black, and seemed to swallow the light around it. The Spectre had arrived. The effect on the shadow ships was immediate. They broke off their attack and changed course, all of them turning away from both the Earth ships and the outpost. "They're running," Morgan said in disbelief. "They recognize it," Foster whispered. "They know what it is. They fear it." As they watched, one of the shadow ships turned and fired at the Dauntless instead of fleeing. The shot was heading straight for the bridge. Reed didn't even have time to give an order. But before the shot could hit, the Spectre moved. It was impossible something so large could move so fast, but suddenly it was between the Dauntless and the energy beam. The beam hit the Spectre and seemed to be absorbed, causing ripples of blue light across its black surface. Then the Spectre responded. A pulse of energy shot out from it, hitting the shadow ship that had fired. The shadow ship didn't explode. Instead, it simply stopped moving, floating dead in space. The other shadow ships accelerated away, disappearing into the darkness. For a long moment, everyone on the bridge was silent, staring at the massive black ship that now hung in space before them. "It protected us," Reed said quietly. As if it heard him, the Spectre slowly turned toward the Dauntless. Its surface shifted, almost like liquid, and a section opened. Diaz's console lit up. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission." "From the Spectre?" Reed asked, not quite believing it. "Yes, sir. Audio and visual." Reed took a deep breath. "Put it on screen." The main screen flickered, and then showed the inside of a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. And standing there, looking back at them, were beings that looked almost human, but not quite. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes large and silver. "People of Earth," one of them said in perfect English. "We are the Guardians, and we need to talk." Captain Reed stared at the screen, unable to speak for a moment. The blue-skinned beings looking back at him were clearly not human, but they stood like humans, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and eyes that showed intelligence. The one who had spoken stepped forward slightly. "I am Mirren, lead guardian of this vessel," he said. His voice was deep and smooth. "We have been watching your battle with the Harvesters." Reed cleared his throat. "I'm Captain Jack Reed of the United Earth Defense Force. The ship you just saved is the UES Dauntless." He paused, then asked, "Who are the Harvesters?" "The ships you were fighting," Mirren replied. "We have other names for them, but Harvesters is what they truly are, and they have set their sights on your people." Admiral Wells' voice came through on another channel. "Captain Reed, what in the hell is going on? Who are you talking to?" Reed quickly brought the Admiral into the communication. Wells' eyes widened when he saw the aliens. "Admiral Wells," Reed said, "these are the Guardians. They pilot the ship we've been calling the Spectre." Wells looked suspicious. "And why have they been hiding in our space?" Narration smiled slightly. "We haven't been hiding, Admiral. We've been watching, protecting when needed. Your people were not ready for contact until now." Dr. Foster pushed forward, his face excited. "Your ship, it's amazing. The way it moves, the way it seems to absorb energy. Nothing in our physics can explain it. Because your physics is incomplete," another Guardian said, stepping into view. This one was female, her silver eyes slightly larger. "I am Taylor, ship engineer. What you call the Spectre is both machine and living being. It thinks. It grows. It was born, not built." Reed and Foster exchanged looks. A living ship was beyond anything they had imagined. "Why did you reveal yourselves now?" Reed asked. "Because the Harvesters have begun their first phase," Narration answered. "The attacks on your colonies were tests. They study your weapons, your responses, your technology. Soon they will decide if you are ready for harvest." "Ready for harvest?" Wells repeated. "What does that mean?" Narration's face became grim. "It means they will take what they want from your civilization and destroy the rest." The bridge went silent. Reed could feel his crew's fear, but also their determination. "We should continue this conversation in person," Narration said. "Captain Reed, would you and a small team join us aboard our vessel? We have much to share." Before Reed could answer, Wells cut in. "That's not happening. For all we know, this is a trap." "Admiral," Reed said quietly, "they just saved us from destruction. If they wanted to harm us, they could have let the Harvesters do it." He turned back to the screen. "We accept your invitation." An hour later, Reed, Morgan, Foster, and Baker stood in the shuttle bay, preparing to board a small craft to take them to the Spectre. The massive black ship hung in space nearby, its surface shifting slightly like dark water. "This is incredible," Foster kept saying, staring out the window at the ship. "Do you understand what this means? Aliens who have been watching humanity for centuries. I'm more concerned about these harvesters," Morgan said. "If they're as dangerous as the Guardians say, we need to know everything about them." Baker checked his tool belt nervously. "I just want to see how that ship works. Nothing should be able to move that fast at that size." Reed looked at his small team. "Remember, we represent all of humanity now. Let's be careful, respectful, and learn everything we can." They boarded the shuttle and launched toward the Spectre. As they got closer, they could see more details of its surface. What had looked solid black from a distance was actually covered in patterns that shifted and moved like currents in water. "It's beautiful," Morgan whispered. When they reached the Spectre, a section of its hull opened smoothly. The shuttle entered what seemed to be a docking bay, but unlike anything they had seen. The walls were dark with faint blue lines running through them. The air smelled fresh, like a forest after rain. Narration and Tella waited for them as they exited the shuttle. Up close, the Guardians were taller than humans, nearly 7 feet, with skin that ranged from pale blue to deep indigo. Their silver eyes had no pupils but seemed to see everything. "Welcome to our home," Narration said. "Please, follow us." They walked through corridors that seemed to be alive. The walls pulsed gently with blue light. The floor was firm but slightly yielding under their feet. "The ship responds to our thoughts," Tila explained, noticing their wonder. "It is partly grown from our own genetic material, combined with technology we acquired from the harvesters." "You said the ship is alive," Foster said. "How is that possible?" "On our world, we developed biotechnology instead of machines," Tella said. "We learned to grow our tools, our homes, our ships. After the harvesters destroyed our world, we combined our knowledge with their technology to create this vessel." They entered a large central chamber where a holographic display showed star systems and ship movements. Several other Guardians worked at different stations, all of which seemed to be made of the same living material as the rest of the ship. "The harvesters have been doing this for millions of years," Narration said, gesturing to the display. "They find developing civilizations and watch them. Sometimes they even help them advance by leaving bits of technology for them to find." "Why would they help civilizations advance?" Reed asked. "Because they don't harvest primitive worlds," Tella said. "They wait until a species reaches a certain technological level, when they have developed enough to be useful, but not enough to defend themselves." She looked at Reed. "Your Earth is approaching that level now." Reed felt cold. "What exactly do they harvest?" "Everything," Narration said simply. "Technology, resources, knowledge, people. They take the best and destroy the rest." Morgan stepped forward. "You said you escaped them. How?" "We were like you once," Narration said. "The harvesters came to our world, but a different group of Guardians, from a world that had already fallen, warned us. Not all of us escaped, but enough to continue fighting." He touched the wall of the ship gently. "We built vessels like this one. We learned to hunt the hunters." "And now you're warning us," Reed said. "Yes, but a warning is not enough anymore. The harvesters you fought today will return with more ships. They now know we are protecting you, which makes you even more interesting to them." "What can we do?" Baker asked. "Our weapons barely damaged their ships." Narration and Tela exchanged looks. Then Narration spoke. "We offer an alliance. We will help you prepare for what is coming. We will share some of our technology. In return, we ask for your help in the larger war against the harvesters. Earth is just one of many worlds they target. Together, we can save more than just your planet." Reed looked around at the incredible ship, at the beings who had been silently protecting humanity, and at his team's faces. He knew this moment would change human history forever. "I'll take your offer to Earth's leaders," he said. "But speaking for myself and my crew, we accept your alliance." Narration nodded solemnly. "Then let us begin. There is much to prepare, and the harvesters will not wait. The meeting at Earth Defense Headquarters was tense. Captain Reed stood before the Defense Council and Admiral Wells, explaining what he had learned aboard the Spectre. On a large screen behind him, images of the Guardians and their ship played. "The ship is partially organic," Reed explained. "It's alive and can heal itself. That's why it can move and change shape in ways our ships can't." General Laura Stone, head of the Defense Council, frowned. "And you believe these aliens? These Guardians? They could be lying to gain our trust." "They saved my ship and crew," Reed said firmly. "And everything they've told us matches what we've seen. The shadow ships, the harvesters, have been testing our defenses, studying our responses." Dr. Foster stepped forward, excitement clear on his face despite the serious situation. "The technology on their ship is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's centuries beyond our own, maybe more. Which is exactly why we need to be careful," Admiral Wells said. "If what they say is true, these harvesters have been tricking developing civilizations for millions of years. They give them technology, wait until they reach a certain level, then harvest them. How do we know the Guardians aren't doing the same thing?" Reed had no answer for that. The council members looked at each other with worry. "The Guardians have offered to bring representatives aboard their ship," Reed said. "They want to show us evidence of what the harvesters have done to other worlds." After a long discussion, the council agreed to send a delegation. Reed would lead the team, along with Dr. Foster, Intelligence Officer Morgan, and 2 council members, including General Stone herself. The next day, they boarded a shuttle to the Spectre. General Stone was silent during the journey, her eyes fixed on the massive black ship growing larger in the view screen. "It really is beautiful," Dr. Foster said, trying to break the silence. Stone didn't reply. Her hand rested near her sidearm, ready for trouble. When they docked with the Spectre, Narration and 3 other Guardians greeted them. The new council members tried to hide their shock at seeing the blue-skinned aliens in person. "Thank you for coming," Narration said. "We understand your caution. In your position, we would feel the same." General Stone stepped forward. "Let's be clear. We appreciate your help against these harvester ships, but Earth is not making any alliance until we know more." Narration nodded. "That is why we've prepared this." He gestured for them to follow. "We will show you the truth of the harvesters." They walked through the living corridors of the ship until they reached a circular room. In the center was a platform surrounded by what looked like liquid metal. "This is our memory chamber," Tila explained. "It allows us to share experiences directly. With your permission, we would like to show you our history with the harvesters." General Stone looked suspicious. "How does it work?" "The liquid metal will rise and surround us," Tela said. "It connects to your mind and shows you images, feelings, and memories. It cannot harm you or take your thoughts. It only gives." After some hesitation, they agreed. The group stood on the platform, and the liquid metal rose around them like a gentle wave. Then the room disappeared. They were standing on a beautiful world with 2 suns. Buildings made of crystal and living plants rose into a purple sky. Blue-skinned people moved through gardens and streets. "This was our home," Naren's voice said, though his lips didn't move. "We called it Aloria. We lived in harmony with our planet, growing our cities instead of building them." The scene changed. Strange objects fell from the sky, like small meteors. When people found them, they discovered technology inside. Technology that seemed magical to them. "The harvester's gifts," Narration explained. "We didn't know what they were. We studied them, learned from them, began to create new technologies based on what we found." They watched as the Elorians advanced rapidly, developing space travel and energy weapons based on the discovered technology. They saw the excitement and pride of the people as they built their first starships. Then darkness came. Massive ships appeared in orbit, ships they now recognized as larger versions of the shadow fleet they had fought. The memory showed the horror as the harvester ships descended, their weapons cutting through Elorian defenses like paper. They took our cities, Naren's voice said as they watched invaders in dark armor moving through streets, capturing people and loading them onto ships. They took our technology. They took our people, the brightest minds, the strongest bodies. They saw some Aelorians escaping in ships. They felt the survivors' grief and determination. We were not the first, Naren continued. The scene changed to show other worlds, other species, all suffering the same fate. During our escape, we encountered others like us, survivors of harvested worlds. Together, we learned to fight back. They watched as the survivors combined their knowledge, creating the first guardian ships, living vessels that could hide from harvester sensors. The liquid metal withdrew, leaving them standing on the platform again. General Stone's face was pale. Even her military training hadn't prepared her for experiencing such memories. Now you understand, Naren said quietly. This is what awaits Earth if we do not stand together. Stone nodded slowly. I believe you. Back in a meeting room on the Spectre, the humans and Guardians sat together, discussing their alliance. Why does the Spectre look the way it does? Dr. Foster asked. Why so dark, so hard to see? It absorbs all energy that touches it, Tila explained. Light, heat, radiation. It takes that energy and uses it. That's why your sensors can barely detect it, and why it appears as just a shadow. And it's sentient? Morgan asked. It can think. In its way, Naren said. Not like you or me, but it knows its purpose. It knows it must protect. Reed leaned forward. You said you took harvester technology. How? They seem much more powerful than you. Naren and Tila exchanged looks. We captured one of their smaller ships, Naren explained. We studied it, learned its secrets. Then we combined their technology with our bioengineering. He touched the wall of the ship gently. The result was the Spectre and its sister ships. There are more ships like this one, General Stone asked sharply. 2 others, Naren said. Hidden, watching other sectors where the harvesters operate. Dr. Foster had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke. If the harvesters seed developing worlds with technology, then wait for them to reach a certain level. Have they seeded Earth? The Guardians were silent for a moment. Then Naren nodded. Yes. Many of your recent technological leaps came from studying objects that were not from your world. Objects the harvesters wanted you to find. Reed felt a chill. How much of humanity's progress had been guided by an enemy they never knew existed? What do we do now? He asked. We prepare, Naren said simply. The harvesters now know we are protecting you. They will send more ships, stronger ships. We must be ready. As they discussed plans for Earth's defense, Reed noticed General Stone looking worried. When there was a break in the conversation, she pulled him aside. Some people back home won't like this, she said quietly. They'll want to capture the Spectre, study it, take its technology for ourselves. Reed looked at her in alarm. That would be a terrible mistake. I agree, Stone said. But not everyone will. There are those who won't trust any alien, even ones trying to help us. Reed glanced at the Guardians, who were showing Foster and Morgan more of their ship's systems. Then we need to convince them, he said, because right now, the Guardians seem to be our only hope against what's coming. 1 week after the meeting on the Spectre, Captain Reed stood in a secure room deep within Earth Defense Headquarters. A heated argument was taking place between military leaders and politicians. We should capture the alien ship while we have the chance, said Defense Minister Robert Clark. Its technology could advance humanity by centuries. General Stone, who had been quiet until now, stood up. I saw their memories, she said firmly. I felt what the harvesters did to them. If we betray the Guardians, we deserve what's coming. Admiral Wells nodded in agreement. For once, I agree with Stone. The Guardians are our best hope. Minister Clark was not convinced. They could be manipulating us. This could all be an elaborate trick. Reed was about to respond when an aide rushed into the room. Sir, Urgent message from Lunar Base 1. They're detecting multiple unknown ships entering the system. Everyone fell silent. Then Admiral Wells spoke. How many? At least 30, sir. Much larger than the ones we fought before. Reed felt his heart sink. They're here. In the command center, they watched as the Harvester fleet moved toward Earth. The ships were massive, each one at least a mile long, with sleek gray hulls that absorbed radar signals. They moved in perfect formation, like hunters who knew their prey was trapped. Where's the Spectre? Reed asked. Have we warned the Guardians? We sent the alert, an officer replied. But we've had no response. Minister Clark laughed bitterly. There you have it. When real danger comes, your alien friends disappear. Dr. Foster had been working at a console, analyzing the Harvester ships. These vessels are much more advanced than the ones we fought before, he said. Our weapons will barely scratch them. Reed made a decision. Launch all defense ships. Set up a perimeter around Earth. We'll fight as long as we can. As Earth's fleet moved into position, the Harvester ships continued their approach. Reed joined Admiral Wells on the UES Dauntless, which would lead the defense. It's like facing a storm with water pistols, Wells said grimly. Communications Officer Dias interrupted. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Harvester ship. Put it on screen, Reed ordered. The screen showed a being that was mostly machine. Where there should have been a face, there was a metal mask with glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. People of Earth, it said, your world has reached the threshold. You will be harvested. Resistance is wasteful. Surrender your best minds, your best technology, and your resources, and the rest will be spared. Wells stepped forward. This is Admiral Thomas Wells of the United Earth Defense Force. We will not surrender. We will fight to our last breath. The Harvester made a sound like metal scraping. It might have been a laugh. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your ships are primitive. You have nothing that can stop a harvest. They might not, a new voice said, but we do. The Spectre appeared suddenly behind a Harvester fleet, but it wasn't alone. Two more ships, identical to the Spectre, materialized on either side of it. 3 of them, Foster whispered in awe. All 3 Guardian ships together. The Harvesters immediately broke formation, turning to face this new threat. The lead Harvester spoke again, but now its voice held something new. Fear. Guardians, this world is not yours to protect. Naren's face appeared on a separate screen. Captain Reed, Admiral Wells, we brought reinforcements. The other Guardian ships have joined us. Reed felt hope for the first time. Your timing is perfect. We need your help, Naren continued. The Harvesters are powerful, even for us. We will engage their main ships. Your fleet should target their smaller vessels and protect your planet from any that break through. Wells nodded. Understood. All ships, new orders. Form a defensive ring around Earth. Let the Guardian ships handle the main Harvester fleet. What followed was the largest space battle humanity had ever seen. The 3 Guardian ships moved like dark shadows through the Harvester fleet, their weapons cutting through the enemy ships with surgical precision. The Harvester ships fought back with energy weapons that lit up space like lightning. Several Harvester ships broke away, heading toward Earth. The human fleet engaged them, following the tactics Reed had learned from the Guardians. Though Earth's weapons were weaker, they focused fire on key points of the Harvester ships that Naren had identified as vulnerable. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Reed directed the battle alongside Wells. 2 Harvester ships breaking through Sector 7. Morgan called out. Redirect the Valiant and Defender to intercept, Reed ordered. The battle raged for hours. Earth ships fell one by one, but they took Harvester vessels with them. The Guardian ships moved together in perfect coordination, attacking and defending as one unit. Finally, the lead Harvester ship, crippled by multiple hits from the Spectre, sent one last message. This is not over, Guardians. There are more of us. Many more. We will return." Then its engines flared brightly, and the ship vanished into jump space. The remaining harvester ships followed, retreating from the battle. The command center erupted in cheers. They had won. Earth was safe, at least for now. 2 days later, Reed stood with Narration in a garden outside the defense headquarters. Earth's leaders had finally agreed to a formal alliance with the Guardians. "You were right," Reed said. "They came in force." Narration nodded. "And they will come again. But now, they know Earth is protected. That gives us time. Time to prepare. Time to strengthen our alliance." "Why did you hide the other Guardian ships?" Reed asked. "You never mentioned them until they appeared." "A necessary precaution," Narration explained. "We weren't sure we could trust humans completely, just as you weren't sure you could trust us." Reed smiled. "And now?" "Now we stand together," Narration said. "The Guardian ships will patrol your system. We will teach you how to build better defenses. And when the harvesters return, they will find not a helpless world, but a strong alliance ready to fight." Minister Clark approached them, looking humbled. "Captain Reed. And Narration, is it? On behalf of Earth's government, I want to thank you. We would have fallen without your help." "No thanks are needed," Narration replied. "This is what we do. This is why we built the Spectre and its sister ships, to protect those the harvesters target." "A ship that was just a myth," Reed said with a smile, "until it destroyed a shadow fleet." As they looked up at the sky, the Spectre passed overhead, visible now for all to see. No longer a myth, no longer hiding in shadows. Now it was a symbol of hope, a promise that humanity was not alone in the fight against the darkness between the stars. "The Guardians will remain," Narration said. "And together, we will end the Harvester's reign of terror, not just for Earth, but for all worlds they threaten." Reed nodded, watching the Spectre disappear into the clouds. The ship that once existed only in spacer tales was now Earth's greatest ally, and somewhere out there, the harvesters were planning their return. But when they came, Earth would be ready.